You think going silent is power, but she's not waiting by the phone. She's making plans. Let that land for a second. You pulled back. You stopped texting. You went dark, told yourself you were giving her space, giving yourself leverage, playing the game, and you waited. You waited for the anxious double text, the hey, are you okay, the olive branch, the sign that she cared enough to crack first, and instead, silence met silence. Or worse, you got a casual two-word response 3 days later that made it clear she barely noticed you were gone. That moment, that specific gut punch moment where your strategy collapsed in real time. That's why you're here. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you because sugarcoating is what got you here in the first place. If this channel is new to you, hit subscribe right now. Not for my benefit, for yours. Because what I'm about to break down is the kind of truth nobody around you is going to say out loud. Your friends will validate you. The internet will sell you tactics. But if you want clarity, real clarity, the kind that actually changes how you carry yourself, then you need to keep coming back. Subscribe and let's get into it. Here's what it really means when she doesn't flinch at your silence. It means you were never the one with the power in the dynamic. It means the emotional weight of the connection was unevenly distributed, and you were carrying most of it. It means the silence you thought was a weapon was actually just absence. And absence only creates longing in someone who valued your presence to begin with. That's the thesis. That's the entire conversation in 3 sentences. But understanding it on a surface level won't change anything. You need to feel the architecture of why this happens, what it costs you, and what you do instead. So let's go layer by layer. The misconception is this, that silence is a form of power. That withdrawing your attention sends a signal, creates urgency, manufactures desire. You learned this somewhere. Maybe from a forum, maybe from a guy who told you women always want what they can't have, maybe from one time it actually seemed to work. And so it became a tool, a reflex. When things felt uncertain, when she seemed distant, when you felt like you were losing ground, you went quiet. You stopped initiating, you stopped being present. You told yourself it was strategic, disciplined even. But here is the hard truth that nobody is going to carve out in letters big enough for you to actually absorb. Silence only works as leverage when the other person is already emotionally invested, when she's already thinking about you, when your presence already has weight in her world. If that investment isn't there, if the dynamic was already tilted, if she was already lukewarm, already checking other options, already treating you as one of several, then your silence is not a withdrawal of something valuable. It's just you leaving a room that she wasn't really watching you stand in. Read that again. Your absence can only hurt someone who wanted your presence. And if she's not reacting to your silence, that is your answer. Not a challenge to escalate, not a prompt to wait longer or try harder or go more extreme. An answer, a clear, uncomfortable, clarifying answer about where you actually stood in this dynamic. Now, let's talk about why it happens. Why do men reach for silence as a strategy in the first place? Because silence feels like control. And control feels like dignity when you don't know where your real dignity lives. When your sense of self-worth is tangled up in whether she's paying attention to you, you are operating from a deficit. You are trying to manufacture value through scarcity because you don't feel genuinely valuable to begin with. That's called scarcity as identity. And it is one of the most common, most unspoken, most quietly devastating traps men fall into. Think about it. A man who knows his worth does not need to manufacture it. He doesn't need to disappear to see if you'll chase him because he is already living a life worth paying attention to. He doesn't need to test your investment because his investment in himself is so obvious, so undeniable, so fully expressed in how he lives that the question of whether someone else values him becomes secondary. But when that internal foundation isn't there, when you're looking to her reaction to tell you how much you're worth, you start playing games. You start performing. You start engineering situations designed to produce a feeling in someone else, a feeling you're too afraid to simply claim for yourself. And the game always collapses. Always, because she can feel the performance. Maybe not consciously, maybe she couldn't articulate it if she tried, but something in her nervous system registers it. Something in her body registers the difference between a man who is genuinely busy and grounded and a man who is strategically unavailable and secretly monitoring her reaction from the sideline. That's the root cause. The silence is a symptom, the wound is underneath. Now let's talk about what it costs you, because the damage here is not just tactical. It's not just strategy that didn't work. The damage is deeper, and it runs longer than any single interaction. Every time you go silent as a strategy, you reinforce a core belief about yourself. You reinforce the idea that you are not enough as you are, that you need manipulation, leverage, or manufactured scarcity to be desired. You stop trusting your own presence. You stop believing that showing up genuinely is enough. You stop developing the skills of real connection, the ability to be direct, clear, honest, and emotionally grounded in a conversation. You stop growing. You stop being real. And the longer you do it, the more you hollow out the part of you that could actually attract someone genuinely, not through tricks, but through character. You stop trusting yourself. You stop respecting yourself. You stop showing up as someone worth wanting, because deep down you've already decided that you aren't. That's what the silence costs. Not just the girl, not just the situation, you. So let's do the reframe. And this is important, so stay with me. Going silent is not your power. Your presence is your power, but only when that presence is rooted in something real. That's the distinction. That's the entire shift. It's not about being more available or less available. It's not about texting more or texting less. It's about what you are doing with your life when you're not looking at your phone. It's about whether there is a version of you that exists fully, richly, deliberately, independent of whether she is paying attention to it. Because here's what attraction actually responds to. Not absence, not scarcity, certainty. A man who is certain of who he is, certain of what he wants, certain of where he's going, generates a gravitational pull that no silent strategy has ever replicated. Certainty is not arrogance. It's not aggression. It's not pretending you don't care. Certainty is simply a man whose center of gravity is inside himself, who doesn't need external validation to take up space, who moves through the world with a settled, unshakable sense of his own direction. Let me paint you a picture of that man, because I want you to see him clearly. He wakes up in the morning, and his first thought is not her. His first thought is his work, his training, his mission, whatever that means for him specifically. He has things he's building, goals that are pulling him forward with enough force that checking his phone for responses feels genuinely secondary, not performed, but real. He communicates clearly. When he likes someone, he says so, not desperately, not from a place of need, but because he's a man who knows what he wants and isn't ashamed to name it. He sets the terms of his time clearly. He doesn't chase, he doesn't manipulate, he doesn't manufacture scarcity, because his actual life already has density, substance, and forward movement that creates natural scarcity. When she pulls away, he does not panic. He does not strategize. He notices it, acknowledges it internally, and returns to his own life. Not as a tactic, but because his own life is genuinely the most important thing he is managing. If she comes back with engagement, he meets it authentically. If she doesn't, he takes that information and moves accordingly, without bitterness, without games, without a story about how she owes him more. He has standards, not rules he recites. Actual standards, lived from the inside out, that determine what he tolerates and what he doesn't. He doesn't tolerate confusion in a person who is supposedly interested in him. He doesn't tolerate being deprioritized without consequence, not because he is punishing anyone, but because he respects himself enough to require clarity. And when he doesn't get it, he is not crushed. He is redirected. That man does not go silent as a strategy. When that man goes quiet, it's because he's busy living. And that is the person you are trying to become. Not the person who has better tactics, the person who doesn't need them. So here is what you do instead. Starting now, stop using silence as a signal. If you have something to say it directly, clearly, without performance. If you are interested, express it once, cleanly, without overinvestment. and let the response tell you where you stand. Stop waiting for her to chase you and start moving toward a life that deserves to be chased. Build something. I don't mean this metaphorically. I mean actually build something, a skill, a business, a body, a creative project, a social world. Find the thing that makes you feel like your time is genuinely valuable and pour yourself into it with enough intensity that the idea of texting someone who isn't sure about you starts to feel genuinely wasteful. Because it is. Your time is not a commodity to be distributed to people who are undecided about you. Your time is the most finite, irreplaceable thing you have. Protect it accordingly. Get direct. Stop hinting. Stop positioning. Stop circling the issue with strategies and games. If you want to know where you stand with someone, ask. If the conversation feels uneven or unclear, name it. That level of directness is not weakness. It is the most masculine thing you can do in a dynamic that has drifted into ambiguity. Ambiguity is where games live. Directness kills the game and reveals the reality. And the reality, even when it's painful, is always more useful to you than the fantasy. Redirect your energy every single time you feel the pull to check, to wait, to strategize, to go dark. Every single time, feel the urge, recognize it as the symptom of the wound, and pour that exact energy into your work, your training, your relationships with people who are unambiguously in your corner. That redirection is not suppression. It is not avoidance. It is the practice of building a life that deserves your attention more than any single unresolved dynamic does. And finally, grieve the fantasy version of this and deal with the real version. Because one of the most painful things about all of this is that the version of her you've been waiting for, the one who would suddenly wake up and see you fully and respond the way you've been hoping, that version may not exist. You may have been maintaining a relationship in your head with a potential that was never actually present in the room. Grieving that is not defeat. Grieving that is the beginning of clarity, and clarity is where everything starts. You are not a man who needs to disappear to be valued. You are a man who needs to show up fully, deliberately, unapologetically in your own life, and let that be the standard that everything else is measured against. The right person in the right dynamic will not require you to perform absence. They will require you to be real. And being real is the work. That's the work, not the tactics, not the silence, the construction of a man so grounded in his own identity, his own purpose, his own self-respect, that the question of whether someone else is paying attention becomes genuinely, not performatively, secondary. That man is who you are when you stop playing games with someone else's attention and start taking your own life seriously. You are not the strategy. You are the standard. You are not the silence. You are the substance. You are not the one waiting to be chosen. You are the one who chooses, clearly and deliberately, what deserves a place in his world. That is the answer. And the answer has been you this whole time. If this hit something in you, if some part of you recognized yourself somewhere in this conversation, then subscribe. Not because I need the number, because you need the reminder. Because this kind of clarity is easy to lose in the noise of everyday life, and you deserve to have it handed back to you again and again until it becomes the way you move. Every week, I am here with more of this, more truth, more no-nonsense perspective on what it actually takes to carry yourself with dignity in every dynamic, romantic or otherwise. Subscribe, share this with a man who needs to hear it, and welcome to a community of people who have decided that comfort is not the goal. Growth is. Truth is. Becoming the version of yourself that you actually respect. That is, let's keep going.